Some time ago we had an expert, a gal out in Colorado, who's an expert on body language. I found it very, very interesting. And we're going to talk about it today. We can't do diagrams, but I think you'll know what we're talking about. Stay tuned.
It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Torres.
Traci Brown has got a couple books out there. She's an expert on body language. She travels around the country giving talks to various people how to know what people are really saying by their body language. Besides that, she just got engaged. And the other day I was talking to her and she said, I can't do the show on such and such a day because of the prince. And I thought she was saying Prince. I said, well, I'm glad you're marrying a prince. She said, no. Prince. Prints. And Traci, that reminded me anew of how difficult the English language must be for other people. We have the same words meaning totally different things, don't we?
Well, yeah, we do. And the funny thing is, even when words are, we think we're speaking the same language, we're just not. Everybody has a different definition of the same word, which gets kind of interesting when it comes to persuasion and influence, which is my favorite topic.
Yeah, that's right. Well, now listen, I've got two of your books here, Body Language Confidential Tactics Every Secret Agent, Salesperson and Kindergarten Teacher Should Know, and I've got another one, Body Language for Profits, how to, turn your knowledge of body language into money. Very good. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the predicate list. Words like see, look, view, appear, show, dawn. Have I got that right? The words they're using along with what they're doing?
Absolutely. So once we get our body language just right, so people are open and comfortable and receptive to you and your message, really the next step is to make sure your words are right, to make sure you're reaching them at deep neurological levels that they're agreeable to. And so to start to understand that everybody speaks a different language is so valuable because you're going to be able to literally fire those neural nets that say yes really quickly. And you just got to profile people so that you start to understand, okay, are they visual, auditory, kinesthetic, maybe auditory, digital? Like all of we've heard of all of these, but we don't really use them for persuasion and influence that often or that strategically. And so that's what I really talk about in Body Language for Profits is how can you look at someone and instantly know how they're going to think? And that's a pretty powerful place to be.
Okay, now I'm going to go back to something a little more understandable. Not that you weren't understandable, but these are things we run across all the time, all right? I'm looking at a picture here in your book, Body Language Confidential. This is a guy playing with his wedding ring. And from what I've read here, this is a guy who may be up against an attractive woman who's not his wife. And he doesn't want to do anything wrong, so he grabs his wedding ring to sort of remind himself, hey, I'm married. Is that about what he's doing?
There's that, and they can be when people play with their wedding rings. You need to notice the subject, and it may be something around sex or sexuality or dating or an attractive member of the opposite sex, whatever it is. Just notice when they grab their ring and what's the topic, and you may see that there's some challenges there that they're probably not going to tell you about, but you can just know maybe trouble in paradise.
Well, or the guy is just reminding himself, look, I'm married. I don't care how good a looker this is. I'm married, right? Something like that?
It could be. Most of the time there's challenges somewhere.
All right. How about hand clenching, Traci?
Hand clenching. Well, you see that when people are nervous, they'll rub their hands together and kind of grab their hands. And so, yeah, you see that a lot, especially with, who does that is Prince William will do that quite a bit. And, when you see that, you got to ask yourself some different questions about what's really going on. You can say, oh, he's nervous, and make fun of him, right? Or you can say, guess what? The paparazzi's after him all the time, and maybe he does get a little nervous from time to time. It makes it understandable. And I think that's really the key, is to lend some understanding to other people, so you can actually start to read their minds a little bit, understand what they may need, just emotionally, mentally, give it to them, and you're going to be their hero.
Okay, now here's one that we all have seen one time or another. I have. Here's a guy sitting in his chair with his leg crossed and his hands behind his head. Now, you're saying this is a superiority power play?
Absolutely. When he folds his hands behind his head, so it looks almost like wings behind his head and neck there. That shows it can be degrading in the wrong or right situation, as the case may be. But really, it's a power play. It's to say, hey, I'm in charge here. I'm making myself really big, and I'm better than you, and you're going to do what I say. That's how that is received, and that's deeply unconsciously how it's meant.
Okay, now here's one that I've seen women do this. I've never seen a guy do it. Now that I think about it, chin on the backs of their hands. They're sitting there and they've got their hands up under their chin, but hitting the back of their hands, and they're looking at you. What's that mean?
When people rest kind of the back of their hands, they rest their chin on it, elbows on the table. That's a sign of almost impatience, but ready to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And so when you see that, it's up to you to know that, okay, you've lost them, right? You need to do something different to get them back enrolled in the conversation, or you know what, cut it short to a time when it's you're more prepared to give them something that they are going to want.
Okay, now here's one that I think we've all run across this. A person covers the mouth. Now, there's two ways you've got it diagrammed here, but they're both signs of lying. Is that true?
When people cover their mouth, generally what I've found is the next thing that comes out of their mouth is false, and that's been my experience, and that's what science will back up. And so, really, the goal there is to say, well, for one, it looks really natural. It looks really natural, and you don't think anything of it. But they may be holding the truth back. They may be holding back a fact that they just don't feel appropriate to divulge at that time, or just don't want to, or it could be a lie. And actually, when you see Lance Armstrong was really good at this one. Lance Armstrong was.
Lance Armstrong. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good at this one. He covers his mouth a lot, and and then the next thing he says is, "Oh, I never did drugs."
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the handshakes, because we all do this. It's not a custom in every country, I've learned, but it is in our country. The nice, firm grip, as opposed to the limp grip. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So in Body Language Confidential, I dedicate a good portion of the book to this. And every now and then, what will happen is you'll get a dead fish handshake. Mm-hmm. And really what that says is, okay, I don't have any backbone. I'll do whatever it is that you want, and, I'm not any force to be reckoned with. Now, maybe that's okay. and honestly, you get this a lot from women. And the truth of the matter is, we've only been shaking hands as women really since the early 80s. And so we kind of got to learn how to do it as a gender. And it's okay for us to coach each other on how to do that, because I don't think we all realize the message that we're sending.
Okay, nice, firm. By the way, let me stop for a minute, okay?
All right.
You're about to marry the prince, right?
Yeah.
Did the prince know that you're watching him carefully all the time?
The prince does know this, and it dismays him greatly. Although he's very proud of himself that he snuck in the marriage proposal to me without me knowing that he was going to do it. So, it's not about watching people all the time like a hawk, because you'll wear yourself out, right?
Well, you go nuts. Yeah. What's this guy really saying?
Totally
right.
go nuts. Yeah. And so really, what it's about is, in the situations when it's important, like in business or maybe in touchy, relationship or friendship situations, to just say, okay, what's really going on over there, and how can you put yourself in their shoes and start to understand some of their thoughts and feelings, and really answer their questions before they know they have them, and before they're consciously aware of their questions. And when you can start to fill that need, people are going to love you, but they're not going to know why.
We're talking with Traci Brown, about to marry the prince, and the poor prince doesn't know that everything he does is going to be interpreted. We'll be back with Traci, not the prince, with Traci in just a moment. I'm talking with Traci Brown, who is out in Colorado, Boulder, as a matter of fact, same place as my good friend Chris Koff. And we're talking about body language. Now, this isn't a pseudoscience, it's a real science. And she travels all over the country giving lectures to people who want to know about body language. For example, salespeople, they have to know what's being transmitted to them by various things people do. We've covered things like the hand over the mouth, the guy's about to lie. I say the guy, could be a gal. We've talked about the fellow who's got his leg crossed and his hands behind his head as he looks at you, and he's telling you, I'm superior. Now we're talking about handshakes, and we had the fishy handshake. Well, it's not really fishy, it's just limp, I would call it. And what does that tell you again, Traci?
Well, when someone gives you a dead fish kind of limp handshake, it just means that they don't have really the backbone or self-assurance that they would maybe hope, or maybe they don't know that they're sending that kind of message.
All right, now here's the nice, firm grip. Talk to me about that.
Well, a nice firm grip is really, in the States here, is really what you're after. It says, you know what, we meet on equal ground, and that you want to be on even terms with whoever you're shaking hands with. And that's actually probably, for the most part, really what you're after in any kind of business dealing, because no one wants to be, put down or, felt like that they're on the receiving end of a power play in business.
Okay, now here I have a friend named Bob Rink, and he does this to me all the time, and I've had to tell him, stop, I've got arthritis in that hand. The bone cruncher, I think he's trying to hurt me, in fact. The bone cruncher, this is the guy that grabs your hand. I mean, he really hurts.
Exactly, and that's common, and you see that with guys, probably a little more than with the ladies. But, that's a power move as well, and he actually may be intending to hurt you, especially if you've told him to stop. And so, remember, these
are you listening, Rink? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, dude. Yeah.
These messages in handshakes they're subtle and they're deeply unconscious. And the thing is that there's a lot of information to gather from a handshake when you get one. So pay attention. Don't just shake hands and then keep talking. Say, oh, wait a minute, what's really on their mind?
All right. Now, here's one that Doug MacArthur did all the time. He's shaking your hand with his right hand, and his upper arm is being grabbed. The other guy's upper arm. In other words, he's got his left arm up on your upper arm, or maybe even over your shoulder. Tell me what those two things mean.
Well, really, those two are they're a way of reaching into other people's personal space, and it can be interpreted as control, right? If there's not a sincere connection there, but if there is a sincere connection, it can make it more sincere, and so it's important to understand the energy behind it. And you see this a lot with politicians at the grocery store who are just about to go into election time. They'll shake your hand and touch your arm and touch the back of your hand and all sorts of things to bring you closer to them. But everybody knows they don't give two rips about who you are. It's about if you're going to vote for them. And so it can actually backfire. So you have to be really careful when you use this to make sure that there's a sincere connection there.
But you could also be telling someone, I'm sorry about your problems, or, I really care about you. But they can also be fake, right?
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. So it's easy to detect, and it's a little bit harder to fake sincerity, I think, with that one, because when you're that close to people, they're going to get a feeling from you.
Okay, now what about the double hand grip? Now, you're shaking hand with your right hand, but you put the left hand out on the other guy's hand. What's that telling you? The double hand grip handshake, you call it. What's that?
Yeah, well, that's another way to do a sincerity move, or at least try to be sincere. And again, you run a risk with that one if you're actually not warm and not welcoming, and they're going to feel a little bit slimed, I guess, by you if you do it wrong.
All right, let's talk about people now. Famous people.
There's a lot of famous people in the news lately with lying and body language, and one I've been talking about a lot is Donald Sterling and V. Stiviano. And you know Donald Sterling is the owner, at least for now, of the Clippers.
Yeah.
80-year-old guy and
running around with a young bimbo.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
and he thinks he's talking to her privately and saying, "Look, you're my dolly. I don't want you showing up at the game with Magic Johnson or somebody else." All right. So, what is his body like? I never see the guy move except, well, of course, I only see him sitting down talking to the camera. But what are you seeing from him?
Well, I watched his interviews both on I think he was on Anderson Cooper, and he's telling a lot of lies, and he's holding information back, and he contradicts himself all over the place. And when he nods his head yes and says, "I'm not a racist,"
yeah.
It kind of lends you to believe that, okay, something else is going on there. And of course, no one's going to get on TV and say that they're a racist. So that, again, that's understandable. But I think that I saw her interview yesterday on Dr. Phil, and she nodded her head yes again and said, "I never had sex with Donald Sterling." And you got to know the body can't lie. The body can't lie, and that was what her interview was filled with, was a bunch of lies coming out of her mouth that her body couldn't handle.
Well, talking about liars, this isn't political, but we know he's lied because he's been caught in lies. Bill Clinton, do you ever watch him? He must give all kinds of signals, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, Bill Clinton did the same moves that both V. Stiviano and Donald Sterling did, where he nodded his head yes and said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." and he did that right on TV. And the thing of it is that, you know, in our society, we put a lot of value on words, and studies have shown that our words are as little as 7% of the communication of the meaning of our communication.
Okay, to be fair, George W. Bush, what was he telling you?
You know, George, I had someone before I really was deep into body language, and he came up to me and he said, you know, right after George W. Bush got elected, he said, "That guy has war written all over his face."
Really?
And I was like, what are you talking about? And, you know, sure enough, you look back and he's just doing what he has to do to toe the party line. And yeah, that's what he showed. And I actually have confirmed that with one of his top aides who was fired. And what they did was, my friend or a client had been an advisor to every president since Jimmy Carter. And what they did was pull everyone into the Pentagon in a big meeting room, and they said there's going to be a war, and this was before 9/11. There's going to be a war. What do you think of it? And they went around the room, and everyone told what they think of it. And the ones that were against it and thought it was a bad idea, the next day got a letter relieving them of their duty.
Mm-hmm.
And then 9/11 happened, which was a great excuse for the war. So there was a lot more going on there than immediately obvious, both in Bush's face, but then, just finding out people who've been through it and were there. And, they wanted people on their side only, on the staff.
Did you see any differences in his second term?
I don't know if I saw so many differences in his second term as I did after he was in office. When he, became more of a civilian, I guess, again, if you want to call it that. And he said, you know what, I'm actually not opposed to gay marriage. I had to say that for the party. And a lot of things like that. And so to look back, if I look closely, I think I could see some incongruencies there. But the problem with politics and politicians is that they're very rehearsed and they're very scripted, and it's really hard to tell anything when they've gone over and over and over and over it in rehearsal, and then they get out in a debate or they get out in a speech. And so, really, what body language experts have to do is wait for them to get off script.
Boy, this is interesting. I want to do a show just on politicians. Can we do that sometime?
We can do that sometime.
All right. Tracy, give my best to the Prince.
I will.
All right. Nice talking to you, dear. Okay. Bye-bye. Traci Brown, her 2 books, Body Language and Body Language for Profits. She's Traci, Traci Brown. These are interesting books. I've been reading them. And, a lot of it you sort of know. Yeah, I remember that. The guy did this, did that, and I knew what he was trying to tell me. And you'll see yourself in here, too, by the way. You'll see yourself, things that you do that probably convey what you're really thinking. Now, next time we have her on the show, and I'm looking forward to it myself, we'll just throw out a bunch of famous names. Actresses, actors, politicians. But as you say, the politicians are so well scripted, and they know about this stuff, too. They're not about to give anything away. George Bush went in there with the idea of war. I believe it. Never doubted it. All right, now stay tuned for more news and information on AM 1480 WLEA. 80 WLEA. 80 WLEA.